Hello and welcome back to another Gunpla review. Today we're taking a look at the high-grade Universal Sentry MS-06F-2 Zaku 2 F2 in Federation colors from 0083 Stardust Memory. This is a very unique suit, aside from the fact that it's a pretty unique looking Zaku 2. It's an Earth Federation Zaku 2, and while Stardust Memory has its problems, this isn't one of them. I actually quite like this design, but we'll get into that. And let's get into this review, starting off, as always, by taking a look at the articulation. Alright, starting out, uses the standard barbell polycap for the neck. However, it's so far down, you don't really get a lot of movement. You do get a pretty decent rotation to the side either way, but don't really get to look up very far or down very far, though it's not horrible. The eye can move a little bit left and right, only to like here. Like, it doesn't get past that point. It's a very slight turn to the side. It's not getting all the way over. Also, there is a track in here, but it's really tight on mine for some reason, so I'm not going to be able to get it to move. Sorry, hopefully it's fine on yours, but yeah. Move on to the shoulders, where it has a forward-facing polycap, which actually has a small piece that goes over it to give it accurate detail, which is nice. Ball-jointed shoulders, as well as a hinge in the shoulder. If you've seen the Origin Zaku, it's basically the exact same construction. It does use a polycap here for the shoulder armor, so that can get up out of the way and rotate forward and back. This one's on a ball joint, which is a bit tight on mine. Funny, that's really the only joints on this that are tight. The ball joint here and the eye. Rotation at the upper arm, which is fairly standard. One joint at the elbow for 90 degrees, so given the actual design of the arm, that kind of makes sense. And the hands, as always, are on ball joints. Now the waist is basically static, though it's mostly due to the actual design of the suit. Just a ball joint, and I mean, you get a bit of a wiggle. Not crazy. Very slight turn to either side. Basically, the little cutout here limits it. But interestingly, how they got around the power cables getting in the way is that they're just loose in the backpack, and they just slide back and forth. It does sometimes get a little bit stuck, but yeah, they don't get in the way, at least. You just sort of readjust them when you're done. One thing I will point out is, I don't know how well I can show it off without just popping the torso off, but yeah, the ball joint is really, really far forward in the waist. It's not centered at all. It's like right here. So the rotation is pretty much right at the front of the waist, and it still only gets that much. Moving on to the hips, unfortunately, due to the actual design of the F2, you can't split the front skirt because of this little bridging spot. This would be nice for a revive with a soft skirt, because yeah, there's a couple problems. Also, this piece kind of means that this doesn't get out very far, so you get about that far, about 45 degrees out to the side, solid back skirt, and yeah, that's about as far to the front as you're going to get the leg. No high kicks from this Zaku, which is actually a real disappointment because it has a forward-backward rocking joint and universal joint for the hips. It's not using ball joints, but it only gets as much range as a ball joint. So that does mean you get the full rotation at the upper thigh. A little bit loose on mine, though that may actually be intentional, but we'll get into that. These power cables do not stay in at all. I mean, they're not going to like fall out, but they come out super easily. You do get a double jointed bend at the knee for about 90 degrees. which does actually get the part separation of the knee, which is nice. And the ankles are on a forward-backwards pivot here, very slight side to side, then a ball joint, which is on a separate piece inside the foot. So you get, you know, the usual Zaku articulation. Pretty decent to the back for Zaku, all things considered. Really far to the front, and pretty decent rock to the side too. So that's kind of the usual problems of an older Zaku, where the torso is just kind of a brick. Though given that the skirts are also kind of limited, that doesn't exactly help things. Now, getting into the accessories, let's start off quickly by taking a look at the stickers. The eye stickers right here. You get a bunch of E.F.S.F logos. I can't even read that, but it does actually have text there. Just, you know, Federation logos. Also numbers, so you can put those on the shield. You get larger black ones and smaller white ones. I assume the white ones are for the chest, where it's a darker color, whereas the rest are for the you know, the shoulder, shield, and maybe down here. You know, wherever you want to put them, honestly. Or you can just leave them off, like mine, because honestly, it looks really good without any stickers. Though before we get into the weapons, I will point out that there is a little bit of color correction you have to do, and it's really not that bad. It's just these need to be done in a dark gray, and you need to paint the dark gray and the red on these, and the red inside the thruster bells, and the little black bits here. It's all like really easy stuff to paint, and it doesn't look bad without it, aside from maybe these. Anyway, let's actually move into the accessories. Let's start off with the Heat Hawk. This is supposed to be pretty much entirely white, aside from the blade and the hose, so why they cast it in gray plastic is kind of beyond me. Yeah, I'm not bothering painting this. It doesn't look bad or anything, and it does have the little clip piece here, which is meant to plug into this hole here to hold it like that. But it's very, very loose, and I don't know if that's just mine or if it's a problem with the kit itself, but yeah, it'll stay in, like it won't just fall out, but I can get it lined up again. It's not gonna fall off or anything, but yeah, it takes like nothing to knock it out, so if you are gonna be storing it there, do be careful. Next up, we might as well get these out of the way. You do get leg missiles. Personally, I don't really care for these. I think they look a bit silly. But you do get two, and that goes back to what I was saying about the hips being a bit loose, because they intend for you to pull the leg off like this in order to strap them on. Granted, they don't expect you to be swapping them back and forth all the time, but you just sort of... There we go. It's actually split here so that you can slip it down over the power cable, which, I mean, I do appreciate that. And it just sits right above that and slots on. I'm not even going to bother. Honestly, it basically looks like that. It does actually stay on decently. It's not that loose. I mean, considering it's just sitting on top, it doesn't jiggle around that much. But, yeah, I don't really like them, personally. And it should be fairly obvious, but I painted the red on the missiles, which also, by the way, is actually very easy to do. And it's because they're actually pretty deeply set in there, so you just sort of put the brush directly on it, go around the edge, pretty clean. Now, moving on to the more standard Zaku machine gun, and of course it wouldn't be one of my reviews if there wasn't a gouge taken out of some part, so yeah. My knife, I'm gonna be honest, I'm gonna blame the plastic on this one, because this great plastic they used for the weapons and a lot of the joints absolutely sucks. It's super hard. As you can see, most of the other num marks aren't that bad, but just went with the hobby knife, took a big chunk out of it. Anyway, sorry, slight digression there. The scope, which doesn't have a sticker, but it also isn't supposed to, as far as I can tell, does move. Secondary handle does move. The adjustable stock, which is definitely a bit of an odd choice, but I don't know, it looks a little bit weird on the Zaku machine gun, but it kind of works, I guess. Doesn't move. Of course, the main body is just two pieces sandwiched together, so of course it wasn't going to move, but you also do get two of these drums, which just peg in on the top pretty easily. A little bit hollow underneath, but that's nothing special. This does have a peg to actually hold onto the gun on both of these. We'll get to this one in a moment. And this peg can also peg onto these holes on the back skirt. Moving on to this one and the alternate hands, you get two holding hands, a open sort of splayed holding bracing hand, and a trigger finger hand, which has a slot in it for those pegs. There is a little stock on this. It doesn't fold out, obviously, it's so small, but I'm not really sure how much that would actually affect it anyway, so kind of a pointless detail. One complaint I do have, you get a spare drum, but you don't get any spare sticks. I mean, to be fair, it probably wouldn't be that hard to make some, but I am slightly disappointed that you can't just peg some extra ammo for this on the back skirt. Mostly because I actually really prefer this one over the more standard Zaku machine gun, at least for the Federation color one. I think it gives it a much different sort of feel compared to the regular Zaku, despite being a fairly similar overall design to the regular Zaku. So I am glad that it's included, but like I said, I wish it had some extra ammo. Also, you do get a couple of little grenades, which I just had pegged on here and I forgot about until now. They come connected, it's just one little peg on the top one that pegs in. Nothing real special about them, but they are a nice little inclusion. Also, there is a 3mm port up underneath for any sort of action base or stand you want to use. Now, let's quickly talk about options parts. Starting off, this is a polycap runner left over, a couple of ball joints, and a ball socket, but nothing crazy. And a lot more importantly, you do get a couple of option head parts. Obviously the commander fin, which does have a little flag on it, is one, but you also get the type of head, if it'll focus, that has the three little rectangles on the top. Personally, I'm not a huge fan of how this looks, otherwise I would have used this instead of the standard, just plain head. But, you know, you get 3 different head options for this, which is nice, especially if you're getting the green ones and you want an army build. Now, as for a quick size comparison, this is actually a very short suit. To be fair, it's about the same height as most other Zakus, but yeah, it does come in a bit shorter than the average mobile suit, so do keep that in mind. Though Zakus tend to be fairly bulky, so it kind of makes up for the height, but yeah. So to wrap this review up, the F2 is actually a pretty solid kit, honestly. I've heard good things about it, but even still, I was honestly kind of surprised at how good this thing is. It holds up incredibly well for its age, and despite the 90-degree elbows, works around it given the design sort of allows for it to not look awkward. The knees only getting 90 degrees is a little bit of a disappointment, and I do kind of feel like the cable material is a little bit harder than it should be. It could probably get a little bit more leeway in that, but not a huge deal. The color correction's pretty minimal, and honestly, if you left it off, it would still look perfectly fine. this really is one of the best high-grade Zakus that they've released, and I can definitely recommend picking one of these up, especially given the Federation colors actually makes it look quite distinct from other Zakus. But anyway, that's all for this review. Thank you very much for watching. Be sure to let me know what you think down in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up, helps a lot. Subscribe and hit the bell icon for future reviews. And as always, until next time, happy building.